Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather, 24th day of January now, 2021. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show once again. Up first, let's see, hazardous weather graphic. There are no watches, warnings, or advisories out today and for tonight and tomorrow for anywhere around the state. The winter weather advisories ended that was out for the St. Lawrence Island area and the Bering Strait coast as well as the northwest coast. Winds have come down, blowing snow not a factor in any of those locations now. Still a little breezy there, 25 miles an hour to the northeast, say at Kivalina. Otherwise, that was one of the stronger wind reports I saw out that way. And pretty good conditions elsewhere around the state, at least not into the advisory level, let alone the watch or warning criteria isn't being met as well, at least for through tomorrow. And otherwise, different story though for Monday night and Tuesday. Monday night, big storm expected to come into the western Aleutians and southwest Bering Sea with an intense low center moving to west of, or just southwest of Shemya by Tuesday afternoon. And the very active front will bring storm force winds into the central Aleutians with full gales into the Pribilofs and the eastern Aleutians. And hurricane force wind warning is expected on Tuesday for the area from Amchitka Island to Shimianatu. Today, though, a weaker low out over the southwest Bering Sea, northeast of Shemya. Just kicking off breezy conditions and rain and snow showers there from Shemya to Adak. Kind of in a break there behind the front at Atka. A little bit of clearing as well going on. But some light precipitation. That front pretty weak as it moves into the eastern Aleutians there. Not much in the way of precipitation. About 15 hundredths in the last 12 hours was one of the heavier amounts at St. George Island. And anywhere from 1 to 2/10 of an inch fell over the eastern Aleutians with winds gusting to 40 miles an hour. Akun Island there just east of Unalaska Island, west of Falls Pass. Otherwise, Cold Bay seeing gusts to about 36 miles an hour to the southeast. So enough to kick the winds up there, but not all that strong as that front continues to weaken. And most of that moisture to the south will stay to the south. That's mostly mid and high level cirrus pushing in toward western Bristol Bay and up the Alaska Peninsula there. Also a weak trough, Bering Strait on up along the northwest coast, brought some areas of light snow showers to much of the western interior today, but amounts are quite light, generally less than an inch, with light snow showers through the central interior area. Saw some clearing today after the moisture moved through Cook Inlet, south central Alaska, giving anywhere from 1 to 2 inches of snow, or a half inch to maybe 2 inches of the most. South central Alaska, say Anchorage, Palmer, up into the Susitna Valley area, as well as the Kenai Peninsula. But that ending today, from south to north, and you see some pretty good clearing over Kodiak Island, northwest flow ridging over Bristol Bay, producing northwest winds there and drying it out and also clearing it out for Kodiak Island. And still some lingering shower activity over the southeast coast, but pretty limited. Elfin Cove reporting some light snow showers this afternoon and amounts of precipitation the last 12 hours there. Anywhere from 17 hundredths of an inch at Cake, most of which fell in the form of snow, good for maybe a couple inches. Juneau still seeing snow through the afternoon today, at least into mid-afternoon, mid to late afternoon, still carrying light snow there, picking about 1 to 2 inches today. Otherwise, winds pretty light across the southeast coast, precipitation on the decrease, and will continue to do so until it ends here this evening. Otherwise, on the chart, again, a little bit of moisture there, along with some areas of clearing over the southeast coast, with low pressure hanging off the north coast there, and high pressure popping up there over the southwest interior of the state, northwest of Iliamna Lake, or over the Kuskokwim Valley, and that producing northwest winds. And of course, that dried it out, cleared it out, southern Cook Inlet, across Kodiak Island, clearing all the way up into northern Cook Inlet. There's some clouds around Anchorage today, light winds, and some clearing Bristol Bay into the southeast interior. And a narrow, kind of a band of some light snow shower activity there from the eastern interior around Eagle, westward into the central interior, and then back up into the main low center. Only about 1,014 millibars, pretty weak, but still some areas of light snow across the Seward Peninsula, northwest coast, and Kivalina right on the proper side of that system. They're giving the northeast winds at 25 knots, indicating the low center is to the south of Kivalina there on the northwest coast. Otherwise, dry over the northern interior, right out to the Arctic coast, and then that weakening front spreading moisture into the Pribilofs in the form of snow. St. Paul, St. George today becoming wet snow, temperatures edging above freezing, and areas of rain for the eastern Aleutians. Again, gusty winds 30 to 40 miles an hour, as I spoke of for the Alaska Peninsula and the Fox Islands. It looks like gusts probably 35 to 50 miles an hour out there over the western Aleutians on the south side of that 976 millibar low. And rain and snow pretty widespread across that area there. And for tonight, that'll continue. Rain mostly at sea level there for all of the Aleutians. Comes a little more shower as you get in toward the Fox Islands, eastern Aleutian areas, as well as Adak and Natgo, the main rain area shifting up to the north. Look for a break there for the Pribilofs and possibly down to the eastern Aleutians with that frontal boundary just continues to weaken, so I just troughed it in. And still some areas of light precipitation with that, some of which could reach the Yukon Delta coast late tonight in the form of some flurries or light snow, cloudy skies, lingering isolated snow showers there over the southwest mountains, maybe southern Kuskokwim Valley, otherwise clear up toward Nikolai and McGrath, mostly clear, variably cloudy, maybe some patchy fog, Cook Inlet, Manuscus is in the valley. We still have that band of light snow showers, a narrow band of some light snow showers associated with that present but ever weakening trough there from the Yukon right along and north of the Alaskan Range, central interior, then back up along another weak trough there up across the Kobuk Valley to the Noatak Valley in the Point Hope, Cape Lisburne area. Dry for the Arctic coast, North Slope, and the Panhandle continues to show an improvement with decreasing clouds and showers at about over, but still a weak trough will keep our risk of an isolated shower or two, mainly along the coastal areas of the southeast coast tomorrow. Monday may not occur at all, otherwise partly to mostly clear, especially in the afternoon for the remainder of the southeast coast. And winds pretty light over the interior, dry conditions from the North Slope, or actually the Arctic coast, all the way down to Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula. Possible rain or snow due to that system to the south. And again, a band of moisture lifting north and northwest. Spread clouds back into Prince William Sound. I think it will be precipitation-free clouds. And they'll begin to drop the flying conditions back down to marginal VFR for Prince William Sound, south side of the Kenai Peninsula, pushing into Passage Canal. Otherwise, clear, looks good over much of interior Alaska. A little colder over the northern central areas, and upper level trough brings a risk of some light snow showers to the eastern Boulevard Sea coast and into the eastern Brooks Range with increasing northerly flow actually will occur all across the eastern interior, especially north of the eastern Alaska Range. That'll bring some colder air in to that area, but not as cold as it could be for this time of year. And a weak trough keeps snow showers mostly along or off the southwest coast, affecting mainly Nunivak Island and St. Lawrence Island, but that affect not much at all. High pressure, pretty good. Southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians with a fair amount of clearing for the Fox Islands all the way out to Atka and Adak and Shemya. On the edge of the chart there, the edge of that intense storm, which deepens to 948 millibars, moves just southwest of Shemya and Attu. Very tight pressure field with that, and that's definitely tight enough for hurricane force wind warnings. Of course, on the charts here where the lines are closest together, that's when the winds blow the strongest, and there's quite a few isobars out there over the western Aleutians, and to a lesser extent in advance of the front, but still good for some storm and gale force winds ahead of the front, along and ahead of the front, pushing into the Fox Islands, Pribilof Islands. High pressure along the southwest coast and Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay, fair conditions. Arctic high over the northeast interior, back below zero in those areas, and becoming breezier through the mountain passes of the Alaska Range and even the Copper River Basin areas. Maybe some outflow winds starting to develop for Prince William Sound and the Copper River Delta, but more so for Lynn Canal Glacier Bay area. Otherwise, light winds and dry with a lot of sunshine over the southern, southeast coast and southern Alaska. Lows for tonight, 20s to lower 30s for the Panhandle. Teens 10 to 15 for the Susitna Valley, back below zero, Copper River Basin, and in the 20s for the Kenai Peninsula. Teens to lower 20s, Bristol Bay, near 30, Kodiak. Lows 15 to 25 below up over the northeast interior North Slope, milder along the Arctic coast. Single numbers there for the Seward Peninsula, and near zero for St. Lawrence Island and Tanana Valley, 5 to 10 below. And in the 20s for the Pribilofs, 30s for the Alaska Peninsula, and lower 30s for the Aleutians. Highs for tomorrow, 30s for the Panhandle, near 40 for Kodiak, mid-20s South Central Alaska, 5 for the Copper River Basin, coldest 11 below Fort Yukon, and a little below zero along the Arctic coast and North Slope. 35 to 40 out over the Bering Sea, and then the lows following morning, we're looking teens to lower 30s for the Panhandle, well below zero up over the northeast interior.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First line weather graphic for Monday morning. Got some IFR up over the Yukon Flats, also the east central Brooks Range and the central Arctic coast. Quite narrow marginal VFR, western Arctic coast, western North Slope, through the northwest interior, including all of the northwest coast, Kotzebue Sound, southward across the mid and lower Yukon River Valley into the Kuskokwim Valley. We actually pick up some IFR between the Kuskokwim and Alaska Range there. Right on down to Togiak Bay, Dillingham, and across the Alaska Peninsula to southern Kodiak Island, and then back to the northwest, catching Nunivak Island, but between St. Matthew and St. Lawrence Island. Widespread VFR for the central Bering Sea, including the Pribilofs, and just about all of the Aleutians. VFR to start the day tomorrow, as well as south central Alaska and the southeast interior, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound VFR, as well as the Panhandle. Monday afternoon, VFR continues to the southeast coast. Might see a surge of moisture coming up, spreading some marginal VFR into Prince William Sound, the North Gulf Coast there, possibly even north, making it north of Valdez and the eastern Kenai Peninsula. Kachemak Bay, Kamishak Bay, IFR overspreading northern Kodiak Island, Fognak Island as well, and some lingering there south of Togiak Bay into, say, Port Hayden across the Alaska Peninsula, and hardly any out over the Bering Sea. Maybe some IFR there for Gamble, western St. Lawrence Island. Otherwise, the Aleutians start to become marginal with central southern Bering Sea, pretty much VFR, interior VFR, some marginal VFR over the central and western North Slope, central western Arctic coast. Tuesday morning, areas of marginal VFR for the North Slope and Arctic coast. Otherwise, Brooks Range southward to the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, VFR. IFR possible there for the Yukon Flats, some lower conditions, low clouds, fog, that type of thing. Same thing over the eastern interior, say from Eagle down toward Northway and Tok. But the Tanana Valley, pretty good. Maybe some marginal VFR, central Kenai Peninsula. But the North Gulf Coast and the Panhandle, VFR, except possible marginal conditions, Prince Wales Island, Kodiak Island, a little marginal up across Bristol Bay, Iliamna Lake, southern Kuskokwim Valley, and up the Yukon Kuskokwim Delta coast to St. Lawrence Island. Big storm spreads a huge area of IFR into the western and then eventually toward Atka, or toward Adak, bearing down Atka in the afternoon. And for the, in the morning, in the afternoon, that spreads eastward with the front and the strong winds to the Fox Islands up to the Pribilofs. Break behind the front, more IFR shimmying at 2 IFR along the southwest coast, mostly off the coast though, but spreading into Bristol Bay, marginal VFR. Seward Peninsula, down across the southwest interior, into the Kuskokwim Valley, but VFR for the much of the interior, as well as the Arctic coast, Panhandle, south central Alaska, VFR, as well as Prince William Sound, Kodiak Island, VFR. And for Anaktuvik, marginal VFR at times tomorrow, split the difference there. I'll go VFR for Adigan. And Lake Clark and Merrill, good VFR. VFR also for Rainy, Windy, Isabel, and Mentasta, VFR. And for Tanita as well, VFR. And Portage, again, VFR to start, but then some moisture slipping on up from the east-southeast, could go marginal, especially on the eastern approach in the afternoon. And Chilcoot and White, good VFR. Freezing levels, 2,000 feet, coming up to Kodiak Island there with some southerly flow, but at the surface north of the Pribilofs and then along the North Gulf Coast, down along the coastal areas of the southeast coast. And icing system mostly staying to the south, May up to the Sitkinak, Trinity Islands, maybe some slight chance of some icing there back across the Alaska Peninsula. And also kind of an elevated threat for some icing, St. Lawrence Island, Yukon Delta Coast, Nunivak Island. Jet stream, higher pressure aloft developing over the western interior as northerly flow tries to take over from the Arctic coast down into the eastern interior to about the Alaska range. And at 9,000 feet, 45 knot winds there over the southern Bering Sea. And at 3,000 feet, we've got 40 knots from the west-northwest across the central Bering Sea, but increased to 50 knots there and about 70 knots south of the area around that low. That's to the south, east-northeast 40 knots, just catching southeast Kodiak Island. Otherwise pretty light in the interior and the panhandle. Turbulence pretty smooth as a result of the lack of wind, with maybe some light to isolated moderate chop eastern Alaska range, Lynn Canal, maybe up to Skagway. Moderate chop, though, along and south of the Alaska Peninsula.
We have a big solar flare coming in, so we're out here on an aurora hunt. It's a CME, it's a dynamite, coronal mass ejection. It's when the sun, it kicks off energy and these explosions that are larger than the Earth, explosion type things coming off of sunspots. And if that energy is pointing straight at the Earth, it gets caught up in our magnetic field, and that energy, electrons, come down our magnetic field, collide with oxygen up there about 50 or a couple hundred miles high, and that's what generates the northern lights. My job as the photographer and the aurora hunter is to be in position, you know, location, location, location. And I like to think I'm composing. Mother Nature, it's a bit of a teamwork thing, you know, she's got to put on the show, but I have to be in the right position and of course with the right tools and the know-how. I've stopped keeping track of how much time I spend out here in terms of hours. It's more in terms of weeks or months, or at this point years now. You know, it was always in me. Even when I was a kid growing up in the lower 48, I would spend nights sleeping on our trampoline, just staring at the stars. I'm in 4th grade and I'm going, wow, look at those stars. And I'd see how many nights in a row I could sleep on the trampoline. And I think my record was 23 nights in a row. So I was doing kind of strange things for an Iowa country boy. I can remember specifically the very first time I saw the northern lights. It was 1989, the peak of the solar cycle, and I was going to graduate school in Laramie, Wyoming. And all of a sudden we had heard the northern lights were out. It's like, what are those? I'd never really seen them before. And my goodness gracious, we were on top of a mountain in the Laramie Range and they were turning blood red. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And the very first picture I took, that was 1990. Now, an old film camera, Pentax K1000 on a plastic Kmart tripod. Took 2 shots on slide film and got them back. And I thought, oh my gosh, this beautiful green thing swirling about. And from that moment, I was hooked. When I realized that you could preserve the auroras on film, I just experimented a ton. I'd had a heaping stack of slides, the no good ones. The experiments gone wrong, you know, too dark, fuzzy, out of focus, too light. I had this huge garbage can full of excess slide film, and that was just the learning curve. Well, when I go out here, it's all about getting the shot. And my wife and I, we've called it the hero shot. But the hero shot is the one where you just come home and you go, look at this. And everyone goes, wow, and you feel like a hero. It's a wonderful feeling, you know. It's good for the ego, of course. It's good for the business, but if you kind of strip that away, it's good for what's inside you, because that's really the hero moment in nature. And Mother Nature's putting on this show that is just mind-blowing. It's unbelievable. When I first resigned from my day job, that was in 1996, and decided I wanted to become a full-time aurora hunter, my goal from that moment and to this day still is to get one hero shot a year. I figured, and I'm talking the kind that somebody wants to buy from you and hang on their wall, where the auroras are extremely bright, very active, turning colors, where you can't believe your eyes. If you get to preserve a little sample of that with a photograph, well, it's what we call the hero shot. Wow, what a feeling. I mean, oh, you're elevated, levitating, you're lifted up. Your spirits are so high that I love that feeling. And I think I get that so much from seeing cool things in nature that I will go way out of my way to find that. And I can, the next day, well, I'll be just laying there thinking about it and thinking how lucky I was, or how fortunate. Of course, I just spent 2 weeks sitting there staring at the sky and not seeing anything, so you got to remember that luck is kind of a relative term, but I still just feel incredibly lucky to be even in a position to where I could have been there, taken a photograph of it, and just mainly experienced it. Well, that feeling could last for days.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back to today's sea ice analysis. About like yesterday, got the heavier ice right up to the north shore of St. Matthew Island, and then thins out, of course, to the south and into western Kuskokwim Bay, and really kind of a reduction there in Bristol Bay, not much at all, except up maybe along areas of the north coast, but still pretty isolated. It looks like the northern Cook Inlet ice has thinned out somewhat, but some of that extending south of the Forelands. And for the coastal water forecast, pretty light winds for this panhandle along the coast tomorrow. Southeast 10 to maybe 15 knots, 11 to 15 foot seas. Light winds over the southern inside waters, east at 10, seas 5 feet. Stevens Passage northeast 15, Lynn Canal north at 20. And the outlook for Tuesday, small craft advisories for Lynn Canal, northerlies picking up to 30 knots with 6 foot seas, 20 knots out of the north for Stevens Passage, Clarence Strait north at 15. And for the south coast, northeast winds, 20 knots, seas 12 feet. Small craft advisories on the north coast, northeast 25 knots with 11 foot seas. Prince William Sound, northeast 15 tomorrow. Same thing for northern Cook Inlet, seas 2 to 4 feet. And for areas south of Forelands, small craft advisories, 25 knots from the northeast southern Cook Inlet and 30 knots for Kamishak Bay, Barren Islands, and the western North Gulf Coast, east-northeast at 25 and east 20 for the eastern North Gulf Coast. Outlook for Tuesday, northwest 25, Kamishak Bay, and 30 knots out of the northwest for the Barren Islands for small craft advisories there. Otherwise, Cook Inlet, north to northeast 10 to 15 knots, seas 3 feet, and north 15 for the North Gulf Coast, north winds 15 knots, 2 foot seas for Prince William Sound. Kodiak Island, gales for Shelikof Strait, otherwise east at 30 knots, seas 11 feet. Gale warning, Sitkinak to Castle Cape, north 35 knots. And then we've got storm warnings for northwest winds there on the Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula, sustained 55 knots, 21 foot seas. Otherwise, good gales on the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula for northwesterlies at 45 knots, northeast 25 knots from Bristol Bay. North 25 knots from Bristol Bay on Tuesday, and then southeast 30 knots for the Alaska Peninsula Tuesday afternoon, and northwest 30 early on from the area from Castle Cape to Sitkinak, northwest 30 knots, Kodiak Island, 20 knots out of the northwest for Shelikof Strait. Gale warnings tomorrow, eastern Aleutians, westerlies 35, maybe 40 knots, seas as high as 17 feet, 30 to 35 knot west winds for Adak and Atco with 18 to 21 foot seas, and gale warnings From Amchitka to Shimei and Attu, southwest 35 to 40 knots, seas right around 20 feet. Big increase in the winds on Tuesday. Hurricane force wind warnings from Shimei to Kiska, southeast 65 knots, 47-foot seas. 60 knot southerlies there. High-end storm warnings for Amchitka Island, 46-foot seas. Storm warnings Adak 50 to 55 knots, 20 to 38-foot seas. Full gales for the Fox Islands, especially Unmak Island, south 45 knots, and Alaska Island south to southeast at 40 knots. And for the southwest coast, tomorrow, east-northeast 20 to 25 knots, west 25 for the Pribilofs, northeast 30 for St. Matthew Island, or St. Lawrence Island, northeast 30, brisk wind advisories there, northeast 20 for St. Matthew Island. And for Tuesday, northeast 25, St. Lawrence Island, gales along the southwest coast, east-southeast at 35, storm warning, St. Matthew Island, gales for the Pribilofs, southeast 40. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast, northeast 10 to 20 knots. Brisk wind advisories to the central and west side of the Arctic coast there for east winds at 25 knots, but from Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, east at 15, and Cape Thompson to Wales, north at 10. 20 knots the next day from Wales up to Cape Thompson, and then 15-knot winds for the western Arctic coast, central coast, light easterlies at 10, and west-northwest 5 to 10 for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Pretty light winds. And for tonight, light winds up there as well, with mostly clear skies over the northeast interior. Narrow band of lingering light snow showers there from all the western Brooks Range along mountains, right on down central interior and in across portions of the upper Tanana Valley, just north of the Alaska Range. Then back to mostly clear to the south. Few lingering rain or snow showers in the Panhandle, and that system keeps it unsettled over the Alaska Peninsula. Wet and breezy. The Aleutians replaced by high pressure tomorrow. Low pressure too far south of Kodiak Island, but close enough to bring some moisture into the area there. Still a risk of some rain and snow showers for the Panhandle along the coast, otherwise clearing. Cooler and dry over the interior. Big storm rolls in to the western Aleutians, and an intense front pushes past the Atka area in the afternoon for Tuesday.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.